How's it going, friends? Today I want to share my top 10 tips for beginner cosplayers or for those thinking about cosplaying for the first time. Don't worry, I got some quick tips to help you out. Tip number 1, don't be afraid to start. I know it can be intimidating to see a bunch of amazing cosplayers online and think that you could never make something like that. But just remember, even the best cosplayers started somewhere. It takes time, practice, and more practice in order to get to that level. Tip number 2, pick a character you absolutely love. This is important during those tough moments whenever you doubt yourself or you're trying to teach yourself something new. Choosing a character that you connect with can help you feel inspired even when things start getting challenging. It's important to remember why you chose the character in the first place. For example, Okami was on my list for years before I thought I could do her justice. Even though I had some pretty frustrating moments since I was teaching myself to silk paint for the first time, my love for the character in the series inspired me to continue. And to this date, it reminds me that perseverance and that drive to keep going is one of the things that really makes cosplay amazing. Tip number 3, research, research, research. This is the fun part, but also kind of hard. So you can do that by breaking down each piece into much smaller pieces, which will help make a big project into a much smaller one. I recommend checking out sewing patterns such as McCall's Simplicity or Vogue for costume ideas or to get you close to your original piece. For armor pieces, there are a ton of templates available online for good prices, such as on Etsy or just available on someone's Pinterest page. YouTube is also your friend here, and there are tons of tutorials from amazing creators out there that can help you make amazing pieces. Tip number 4, read the convention cosplay rules. This will save you from headache later on. Make sure your props and costume pieces comply with the rules of the convention that you're attending, not just for competition. Every con is a little different, but they usually have those listed online. Some basics that I see in most places are like no lifesteal, no super pointy bits. This is primarily for safety at the con. So I definitely recommend reading those so you don't spend all this time making an awesome cosplay that's going to get turned away at the door. Tip number 5, keep it simple. Especially if this is your first cosplay, I highly recommend having a simpler costume to start out with to get one under your belt. You're going to be teaching yourself a lot of new skills, and that can be really overwhelming. Now, I didn't necessarily follow this back in 2006. My first cosplay was Ash from Final Fantasy XII, and while I learned a lot of skills such as thermoplastic and sewing and just in general how to plan my whole process around making a cosplay, it was definitely very challenging, and I think that I could have set myself up for success much better if I had started with something simpler. Now, you can take it or leave it. I certainly didn't follow that advice, but I would say for beginner cosplayers, or if this is one of your first, you can either do a store-bought cosplay, or you can do a plain clothes, or a casual cosplay. All of these are great alternatives than to some big project that you may get super frustrated with because it's not exactly how you thought it would turn out. Speaking of that, tip number 6, it won't be perfect, and that's okay. Your cosplay may not turn out exactly as you hoped, and that's completely normal. Embrace the imperfections and be proud of what you created. I guarantee you there will be flaws, and you will notice them because you spent so much time up close to them, but it doesn't matter. Honestly, I have not had a single instance where anyone has brought to my attention a mistake that I really focused on while I was making the cosplay. In times like these, I really like to channel my inner Bob Ross. There is no such thing as mistakes, only happy accidents. I even have that up by my sewing station to help remind myself of that. So don't worry if you make a mistake, it's part of the learning process, and keep going. Tip number 7, don't compare yourself to other cosplayers. Let me say that again. Don't compare yourself to other cosplayers. I know it can be overwhelming when you see a whole bunch of amazing cosplayers online, especially on social media, but this is not a competition with anyone else. Everyone's journey is going to be different, and just because someone has an amazing cosplay that you're like, oh my god, I can never be like them, I'll never get there. Don't compare yourself to them because you don't know where they started. Tip number 8. Expensive tools will not make your cosplay look better. Practice does. You don't need fancy tools to create a great cosplay. Start with some basics such as a sewing machine, Dremel, utility knife. Technically, you can even make cosplays without these things. At one of the conventions that I was at, I met with a cosplayer there who was amazing. She was Cardcaptor Sakura, and she had created her entire dress by hand with just a needle and thread. So don't get caught up on thinking that you need the latest and greatest 3D printer. Many of the creators that you see with the fancy stuff didn't start out with that in the beginning. It's amazing to see what people can accomplish with just the basics. Remember, practice is what makes an amazing cosplay, not an expensive piece of equipment. Tip number 9. Yes, you can buy your cosplay instead of making it. Buying your cosplay instead of making it is a great way to try out the hobby before investing a whole bunch of time and money into making your own. Cosplay doesn't mean you have to make it all by hand, and you can purchase from many of the cosplay online stores or commission somebody to make something custom. I know this is a bit controversial in the cosplay community, but as long as you're not competing in a store-bought cosplay, it's perfectly acceptable. Tip number 10, there's no limit into who you can cosplay. Cosplay is for everyone, regardless of age, gender, body shape, skin color. Just remember that the only kind of good rule of thumb is don't alter your skin tone to any naturally occurring skin color. You run a high risk of offending people for some pretty valid reasons. Cosplay is for everyone. It's about having fun and showing your fandom through your craft. And there we have it. I hope these quick tips help you on your cosplay journey. And if you have any questions or want to add some of your quick tips of your own, feel free to comment below or reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for watching. See you later.